Effective school-wide inclusion ensures the best outcomes for all students. But how can school teams knock down the barriers to inclusion and make sure it's happening across all classrooms? Let's talk about it on this episode of the Special Education Inner Circle podcast. I'm your host, Catherine Witcher, and what I just read to you right there is actually on the back of a book that I'm in the middle of reading, and I'm going to give you some highlights from this book about leadership strategies for successful school-wide inclusion. I'm going to give you the cliff notes, and of course, I'm going to put the link for you to go grab it for yourself. If you're listening to this and I give you this cliff notes, I give you the bullet points, I tell you the cool things, and you're like, yep, I need that. Go get it, because every school struggles with making sure that they have a truly inclusive day for everyone. Now, I always say inclusion is an experience, not a place, meaning that from the time a student steps on a campus to the time that they leave, they should feel included in the activities. And that's exactly why I'm reading this book. I was like, let me see what these two veteran special education teachers have to say about implementing inclusion school-wide, not just in a classroom, not just in one place inside of the school, or not just in one way, but really looking at what is necessary to do this across all environments in the school. So they have a framework. Now, I love a good framework. So a framework, when we put things together in this structured way that makes it easy to understand and easy to implement. And their framework is called STAR. They say, make your school an inclusion star. And STAR stands for S, set the tone. Establish a culture based on equality, democracy, and valuing of differences. T stands for translate research to practice, use effective practices in blended classrooms. A stands for arrange for collaboration between professionals. And R says reflect on process and outcomes, evaluate successes and remedy limitations. And that's exactly what we need to be doing on a regular basis inside of our schools. So parents and teachers, it's so important for us to work together on this whole inclusive experience, but we also need it to come from the higher ups, right? We need an entire culture of inclusion within the school, and that's hard to achieve when we're only looking at it from a day-to-day, classroom-to-classroom type of implementation, and we're not looking at the bigger structure within the school. So I'm going to share with you here the perspective on inclusive education, according to our two authors of this book. It's Dennis Monk and Thomas Dempsey. So they share the perspective on inclusive education that I really think will help give you some words, some ideas of how you can talk to leadership. Maybe it's principals, special education directors, board members, superintendents, and really bringing this conversation kind of up the chain of command in special education. They say that the perspective on inclusive education includes having critical values and assumptions. And that includes that all learners are afforded the same respect and dignity as members of the school community. All learners are capable of growing and achieving academically and socially. And all learners benefit from the presence of diversity among classmates. So that's really looking at if your school values those things. And some of you are nodding your head like, yeah, of course our school says that. So if your school says that they value this, if they're like, yes, this is part of our values, then we need to move into how are we going to make this happen? And that's where it talks about the critical school-wide practices. School personnel accept shared ownership for education of all learners. School-wide policies and practices are designed for the benefit of all learners. The administration and teachers expect and prepare for diversity among learners. So I think we're all expecting it, right? Like we expect that all learners are different. But the first bullet point there of school personnel accept shared ownership for education of all learners, that's where this needs to come from the administrative type level, because we do have a breakdown inside of our school system of special education and general education teachers feeling like, I have my students and you have your students. That happens a lot. And it's important for us to really look at this as a shared responsibility. There is a student who is enrolled in the district. You are a teacher who is enrolled, who has accepted a position in the district. So it's a child who belongs to the district. You're a teacher who belongs to the district. Like everybody has shared responsibilities in this. Then we have our class-wide practices. So these would be expectations that would happen in each classroom. That teachers respect individual differences among classmates and expect all to meet challenging goals and expectations. Teachers demonstrate respect for all learners and their daily interactions and promote positive relationships among peers. And it's really important that we discuss then too the implementation of special education services. And in this, the first bullet point, it says the general and special education personnel share responsibility for the education of learners with special needs. Yes, please, right? But again, how we get that done is really important, and it is a difficult kind of momentum to build. But when you have the right framework, when you have the right tools, when you have the things that you need to say, okay, I have a toolbox that I can implement, and this is going to be different than what we've done before. And that's what the STAR process is. So remember, that's setting the tone, translating the research into practice, arranging for collaboration, and reflecting on processes and outcomes. So this book is going through step by step. And that's why I wanted to tell you about this step by step. And it's not just about teachers in the classroom and what they need to be doing, but it's about what the leadership, the administration needs to be doing, what the school needs to be doing as a whole, what parents could be doing, what intervention services can look like when we're building an inclusive school. So it's not just about building an inclusive plan for an individual child, which of course we need amazing inclusion plans. And I love to help parents and teachers build really great inclusion plans that are individualized and creative and out of the box. And that's something that we talk about all the time inside of our Master IP Coach programs. But when we're talking about the structure of a school, I mean, I've never been an administrator. I've worked with administrators a lot. I've trained administrators on conflict resolution, leadership at the IEP table, a lot of different aspects of the IEP process. I've had this experience in administration, but I've never been an administrator, a principal or administrator who's run a building. And I'm never going to pretend that I know exactly what that feels like. None of us do unless we've been in that position. But I can tell you that working together and bringing new ideas and bringing new frameworks, bringing new solutions, something as simple as like this book that I'm reading right here, bringing that, administrators are human beings too, right? They need new ideas and new things that they can put into practice because it is overwhelming to put together all of the pieces. That much I do know. I don't have to be an administrator to know that it's overwhelming to be an administrator and have to put all of the pieces together. So I want to encourage you again, if you're hearing this and you're like, yeah, I wish my school would do that, go to the link, grab the book, read through, and see if this STAR method is something that would be helpful inside of your school. Now, I'm going to tell you about my favorite part of the book, my absolute favorite part of the book. Now, I love all the research. I love all the examples. I love the foundation and perspectives. All of that is fantastic. But give me a good checklist or a good inventory sheet, a good survey, and I am so happy. Like, I want to see this structured and broken down and so clear that I just have to follow things step by step. So in the back of this book, and that's what got me, I was like, yep, this is where it's at. It has all of the steps. Once you understand what you're looking for, why you're looking for it, you read through some case studies of how this has worked, then you're going to be able to download the exact tools that these two educators have put together and have implemented in several different places. Okay, this is tried and tested. You're going to be able to look at the exact tools and implement them. Everything from looking at how are we going to set the tone? And so, for example, how does our school vision acknowledge a commitment to inclusiveness and the success of all learners? Like, yeah, let's revisit that. Or how well is our mission and vision understood by the entire school community? See, a lot of times a mission, a vision, or an idea of inclusion, it happens. There might even be writing on the wall, right? Do any of you have the schools that were, the mission statements on the wall? But are we living it, breathing it, executing it, showing it? That's where the work comes in with this. So going through this checklist and really revisiting, are we setting the tone? Are we, doing research-based practices to implement this? Are we arranging for collaboration, like being intentional, that general education and special education teachers working together with the principal or leadership involvement, it's not something that is an afterthought. It's not something that we do everything and then we have to make sure that we do this. It becomes part of the practice instead of an afterthought. And making sure that you have checklists, inventories, surveys for each area, including a parent survey that's in here. Again, I love making sure that parents, teachers, admins, and therapists are all coordinating. And when we can use a tool that is valuable for every party that's involved with the IEP process, it becomes something that is, it, it's possible. It becomes possible. So it's not, oh, this teacher's using this tool and then this teacher's using the other one. And then, oh, we have this other thing, we use a whole different system for parents. And by system, I just mean our communication. No, this would be, are we meeting the star quality of providing an inclusive school, school-wide? Again, I'm going to encourage you to go grab this book. I'll put the links there. And if you have questions about inclusion and building programs, whether it's at the school level or it's at the individual level, will you go ahead? I'll put a link here of how you can reach out and tell me, what are your struggles? And if I don't have the resource for you, I'm going to find you the resource that you're looking for. I've been doing this a long time. I've been in the field professionally for over 25 years. I've trained, hundreds of master IEP coaches that are active right now, helping parents through the IEP process and working with teachers. I'm digging in with teachers on a regular basis and helping them understand how to build IEPs that work in the real world. So if you're struggling, do not hesitate to reach out. And if you nodded your head yes during any of this, you were like, yep, my school needs this. Yes, I'm interested in this STAR program. More people need to know that there's a solution that can be school-wide. It could be as simple as starting with purchasing a book to get started in this concept. Could you go ahead and share this with somebody? And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, if you could leave a review, that would be fantastic. Every time you share this or you leave a 5-star review and you put a review on Apple Podcasts, it helps more parents and teachers get information they need to build IEPs that work in the real world. See you guys next time.